revealed how my family's painful message led to an unexpected life-changing journey of redemption. Clara Johnson stood behind the counter at Mel's Diner, the aroma of fresh coffee enveloping her like a warm hug. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in their small Midwestern town, but for Clara, every hour felt like a countdown. She poured coffee into chipped mugs, her mind racing with dreams that hovered just out of reach. Each pour seemed to echo her own unfilled ambitions, each cup a reminder of the life she wished for, the one where she wasn't just a waitress, bound by the heavy chains of expectation. Her father, a retired veteran, was a local hero, but the weight of his disappointment shadowed her every move. As relentless as the jingle of the diner's door, Clara served pancakes to a table of regulars. Her heart throbbed at the thought that her childhood friend, Sarah, was coming back to town. Sarah, a name that resonated with memories of shared laughter, innocent dreams, and a future that felt certain. Clara switched to a quieter, heavier coffee blend for the older gentleman at table 7 and let the thought swirl through her. Sarah was not just coming back. She had made it big in the tech world. The contrast between their lives felt like a chasm, and Clara's heart squeezed tight in her chest. "Hey, Clara," one of the regulars said, snapping her back. "What has eaten at you today?" "Oh, nothing," she replied, forcing a bright smile that felt like an act. Meanwhile, the whispers of the townspeople echoed in her mind. Clara's still waiting tables? And Sarah's a millionaire now? With every glance, she felt their judgment slide over her like icy water. The charity event for economic inequality loomed closer, an ironic stage for her to present herself a waitress among titans. Underneath this weight, she sent a hesitant message to Sarah, her fingers trembling as she typed and deleted, finally sending off a simple, "We should catch up." Clara's stomach knotted as she hit send. What if Sarah thought she was pathetic? When Sarah replied, recalling their shared dreams with warm affection but tinged with a hint of condescension, Clara felt the sting of every unguessed moment that had driven them apart. "Can't wait to see you, Clara. Let us talk about the event." But the memories of how they once vowed to change the world felt suffocating now. As Clara prepped for the charity event, tension brewed. Conversations simmered as neighbors clashed with narratives on privilege versus grit. Clara could feel her father's disappointment from miles away, echoing in every word exchanged. Why couldn't he see that her heart still beat with ambition, even while serving hot plates? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue then. Just when Clara thought she would drown in the depths of despair, Sarah revealed a hidden struggle, a loss that had shaped her, counterbalancing their transformed lives. In that moment, Clara found a flicker of understanding between them, shared pain wrapping their pasts tightly together. Could this bring them back to that sacred ground of friendship? Hope started to light the corners of her heart, igniting the strength of family bonds that had shaped her into who she was. Clara took a deep breath. The day of reckoning was nearing. In the shadows of her father's disappointment, she felt a glimmer of possibility. Maybe she could rise. As tensions at the event escalated, she stood on the precipice of something bigger than herself, questioning just how far she would go to reclaim her story. Would she dare to bridge the divide and rekindle hope amid the fury of judgment? The stakes had never felt higher, and Clara wondered if she could finally inspire change in a world so quick to judge. The morning of the charity event arrived with a heavy gray sky, matching Clara's mood. She stood in front of her mirror, her reflection revealing a stranger clad in the only blazer she owned, its fabric slightly frayed at the seams. Her heart raced as she rehearsed her speech in whispered phrases, hoping to find strength amidst the flutter of anxiety. Outside, the familiar sounds of the diner drifted through the crack in the window. The laughter of children running past, and the clatter of pots and pans reminded her that life went on, regardless of her insecurities. Clara quickly gathered her resolve. The tremor in her voice could not overshadow the determination lighting up her spirit. She might be a waitress, But she was also armed with the stories of her family, the sacrifices they made, and the lessons learned from hard days. Upon arriving at the venue, she was met with a crowd of polished suits and designer dresses. Clara felt like a ghost slipping into a world where she didn't belong. Murmurs filled the air, punctuated by the clinking of glasses and the soft chords of a piano. "Clara, you made it." Sarah's voice cut through the noise, pulling her from her discomfort. She looked radiant, her confidence a stark contrast to Clara's turmoil. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world faded away, their childhood memories alive in an instant. Sarah ushered her into the sea of guests, introducing her to local influencers and philanthropists. "But wait," Clara found herself saying. "I'm just a waitress, oh, come on." Sarah insisted, her laugh infectious. "You're not just anything. You have a story to tell." Clara nodded, but doubt lingered. As the event kicked off, speakers took the stage, sharing moving narratives about overcoming adversity. Clara listened, captivated, anchored by the shared experiences of struggle and resilience. Each story resonated inside her, as if amplifying her own turmoil and dreams. Finally, it was her turn to step to the podium. The spotlight felt blinding. She gripped the edges, grounding herself as a wave of nervous energy washed over her. "Hi, everyone," she began, her voice quaking but never wavering. "I'm Clara, and I'm here to share what it means to stand on the other side of privilege." She recounted her family's history, the sacrifices of her father, and the lessons etched into her very being. Word by word, Clara felt herself breaking free of the chains that had held her captive for too long. She spoke of dreams delayed but not extinguished, igniting a fire in the hearts of the audience. As she looked up, she saw Sarah nodding, her eyes glistening with tears by the end of her speech. Clara caught the audience's attention, and for the first time, the whispers faded. They leaned in, enraptured by her raw honesty. She shared her wish for collaboration among those who lived lives of privilege and those who fought daily for a better future. Would they take steps, together, toward understanding? When she stepped down, applause cascaded around her like a warm embrace, washing away the shadow of doubt that once lived in her heart. Sarah wrapped her arms around her, squeezing tightly, as if celebrating their reconnection. "I knew it," Sarah exclaimed, eyes bright. "You're extraordinary, Clara." Suddenly, amidst the joy, Clara felt a shift. Could this be the moment she had been waiting for? Her thoughts raced ahead as she imagined the possibilities ahead. Perhaps together, they could inspire change, influence lives, and create a new narrative. Clara felt the resilient spark inside her, realizing she was ready to step beyond mere waiting, beyond serving plates, to a life where she would lead. But just as she started to embrace this new dawn, her phone buzzed, an unexpected alert that could change everything. Clara blinked as she stared at her phone, the buzzing pulling her away from the exhilarating moment she had just experienced. Her heart raced once more, not from the thrill of applause, but from the urgency embedded in the notification. It was a message from an unknown number, but the content set off alarm bells in her mind. "Clara, we need to talk. It's important." "Mom." The lump in her throat grew heavier. It had been months since she had spoken to her mother. They had shared a strained relationship, punctuated by silence and misunderstandings. Clara had thrown herself into work, her charity speech, and hanging on to the hope that she could create a better future for herself, away from the past that weighed down her family. She briefly considered ignoring the message, but something inside urged her otherwise. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, her voice gently probing, her brightness now tinged with concern. Clara shook her head, the smile from moments ago evaporating like mist. "My mom, she wants to talk." "Now," Sarah continued, her tone supportive yet cautious. "Yeah," Clara replied, glancing at the crowd mingling around her, those well-dressed people who had just clapped for her dreams. "I need to do this." The busy venue felt overwhelming as Clara stepped outside, seeking the quiet comfort of the cold night air. Each breath she took felt like a battle. Clara stood near the venue's entrance, her heart pounding in tandem with the flickering street lights. She hesitated, fingers trembling as she typed her response. "Okay, where?" Her phone pinged back almost immediately. "Home. Home." The very words sent a wave of memories crashing over her, something warm but also bittersweet. Clara took a deep breath and made her way back to her car. Each footstep weighted with doubt. The drive felt surreal, memories flooding back each time she hit a familiar road. The places they passed, like snapshots of a life that seemed both distant and vivid, reminded her of the warmth of family dinners and the strained conversations full of unspoken words. Arriving home, she hesitated outside for a moment, staring at the peeling paint on the front door. It felt like a portal to a time that once felt comforting. As she stepped inside, the scent of old wood and faint traces of her mother's cooking eased her anxious heart, but tension lingered. "Clara?" Her mother's voice cut through the stillness. She was sitting at the dining table, the same old table that had hosted years of arguments and laughter. Clara's stomach twisted as she met her gaze. Her mother looked older, wearier than Clara remembered. "I didn't know if you would come," her mother said quietly. "Neither did I," Clara confessed, taking a seat across from her. Mom looked at her, eyes flickering with a mix of regret and hope. "I heard your speech. I'm proud of you." "Thank you," Clara replied, her voice barely a whisper. But as she spoke, she felt the walls closing in. Was pride all her mother had to offer? The weight of silence drew heavy between them, pressing against Clara's chest. Yet before she could probe further, her mother continued, "There's something we need to discuss, a family secret. It's about your father." The words reverberated in Clara's mind. Family secrets? The air turned electric as Clara leaned in, desperate for understanding. Would this revelation change everything she had built her life around? The moment stretched taut between them, filled with possibilities and questions. Clara felt her heart hammering, anticipation and fear colliding inside her. Maybe this was a moment of real transformation, a chance for redemption. But would the truth bring them closer, or would it shatter the fragile connection they had just started to rebuild? As her mother took a deep breath, Clara braced herself for what was to come. Her mother exhaled slowly, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Clara, there's something about your father, something I didn't know how to tell you." Clara leaned closer, heart pounding. "What is it?" The air around them thickened with tension, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. "He wasn't who you thought he was," her mother began, her voice cracking. "There's a reason we've had to keep so much secret from you. A reason I left." She paused, pain knitting her brow. "A reason your grandparents won't come near us." Clara's mind raced. What did that mean? Her father had been a complicated man, but his absence had always been cloaked in silence and shame, never clarity. "What are you saying?" "Your father wasn't a hero, Clara. He struggled with things you couldn't see. He had demons. And because of that, there are truths about our family, about you, that you don't know." The words tumbled from her mother, unearthing buried fears Clara had tried to dismiss. "I don't understand," Clara stammered, an icy dread creeping into her stomach. "What kind of truth?" Her mother looked down for a moment, gathering the strength to continue. "He wasn't just a troubled man. He was involved in things that affected us." She reached across the table, her hand trembling as it hovered near Clara's. "I should have told you. I should have protected you." Clara's chest tightened. "Protected me from what?" "They used to say he was a good man, just caught in bad situations. But he hurt people, Clara. And as much as I wanted to shield you from that truth, it was only a matter of time before you stumbled over the memories, over what he left behind." Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes. The notion of her father being something more than flawed, and yet still human, was dizzying. What did that mean for the foundations of her identity? Had her entire life been built on a facade? "Mom, why didn't you say anything sooner?" Her voice broke as anger mixed with heartbreak. "You just let me go on believing he was what? A victim? Someone innocent?" "I was scared," her mother admitted, her voice small. "Scared you would hate me or hate him. And I wanted to give you a normal life, one where you could forget about him entirely. But that was selfish. It was wrong." Clara leaned back in her chair, reeling from the chaos of emotions swirling inside her. "Normal doesn't exist for us." The truth hit her, heavy and dark, leaving no room for denial. Everything she had thought she knew was shaking loose like an old tree shedding its withered bark. "Maybe we can figure this out together," her mother suggested softly, hope flickering in her eyes. "It doesn't have to define you." "Define me?" Clara shook her head, anguish belied by uncertainty. "Mom, if I dig deeper, what else might I find? What else will it change?" "I don't know," her mother whispered. But I think it's something we need to face. Both of us. The silence that fell around them felt insurmountable, a chasm of secrets stretching deep and wide. Clara took a shaky breath. Fear pooled in her stomach, mixing with a hint of anticipation. Maybe this would be the moment that broke their cycle of hurt. As the night stretched on, Clara felt herself standing on a precipice, a chance for redemption hovering right in front of her. But was she ready to leap into the unknown? Clara, her mother said, shifting again in her seat. Please, promise you'll hear me out. The truth, however painful, can set you free. What she didn't expect at that moment was to discover that freedom might come at a price. But was she willing to pay it? As Clara prepared herself to confront the shadows of her family's secrets, she realized this could be just the beginning of a journey she never knew she needed. Clara stared at her mother, a rush of emotions weaving through her. The air felt thick, almost electric. She wanted to scream, to run, to bury herself beneath a mountain of blankets and pretend the world didn't exist. But her mother's pleading gaze anchored her to the moment. Can we start from the beginning? Clara ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. Tell me everything. I need to know what I'm facing. Her mother hesitated, and Clara could see the battle waging in her eyes. It'll hurt, Clara. Some things can't be undone. I'm tired of living in the dark, Clara replied, determination flaring within her. Just tell me. Taking a deep breath, her mother began. Each word carried the weight of years of silence. Your father was involved in a gang. He thought he was protecting us, providing for us in ways I couldn't understand. But those choices came with terrible consequences. Consequences that followed us. The words hung in the air, as if everything Clara had known suddenly cracked open, revealing a chasm of hurt. She shook her head in disbelief. A gang? No, that can't be true. He was just a man. Clara, her mother interrupted gently. A flawed man who was deeply misunderstood. But he made choices that hurt people. We were supposed to live a quiet life, but his past caught up with him. And with us. Clara felt a rush of heat climb up her cheeks, mixing with the coldness in her chest. What does that mean for me? Am I connected to that darkness? Is that who I am? Her mother met her gaze, her own filled with regret. No, Clara. You are not your father's choices. You have the power to break the cycle. But could she really? The tangled roots of her father's life dug deep into her own, and she felt the weight of a legacy she never asked for. How do I do that? How do I move forward knowing this? Her mother squeezed Clara's hand tightly. We'll figure it out together. This isn't just about him. It's about you, too. Finding the truth means finding your own identity. Clara nodded, but doubt lingered like a shadow. What if knowing the truth only deepened the wounds? What if I'm more like him than I want to admit? What if I have those demons? Then we face them. Together. You have a light in you that he didn't have, her mother said, a fierce pride flashing in her eyes. We can still forge a new path. Just then, the doorbell echoed through the quiet house, pulling Clara from her spiraling thoughts. Every instinct told her to ignore it after everything they just uncovered. She wanted to hide. Clara, stay here, her mother said, rising from her chair. I'll see who it is. As she walked away, Clara could feel the anticipation heavy again in the air, twisting her insides. Life had already shattered into pieces, and now it seemed to be unraveling further. Her heart raced as she wondered who could be at the door. Before she could ponder more, her mother's voice called out, sharper this time, laced with surprise and trepidation. It's your grandparents. Clara felt her breath hitch in her throat, and every bit of courage she had mustered threatened to evaporate. The very people who had avoided them for years, the ones she was both curious and terrified of meeting, were suddenly at her doorstep. The chasm of secrets between them felt on the verge of collapsing. What would her grandparents reveal? Would they tell her more about her father, or were they there to further bury the truth that had been clawing its way to the surface? Clara stood frozen, a new wave of anxiety washing over her. Was she ready to face the family she barely knew? As her mother opened the door, Clara's heart thundered in her chest. Everything was about to change again. Would they embrace her or push her away? Did they hold the key to some deeper understanding of who she was destined to become? The answers hung tantalizingly close, but at what cost? Clara watched her mother swing the door open, revealing two familiar figures tightly woven into the fabric of her upbringing, her grandparents. The sunlight poured in behind them, illuminating their faces in a way that made them seem both warm and distant. They looked older, wearier, as though life had etched lines of sadness into their features, each wrinkle telling stories Clara had never heard. "Mom. Dad." Her mother's voice trembled slightly, and Clara could see the flicker of old wounds being triggered. Clara took a hesitant step forward, the air around her thick with anticipation. "Clara." Her grandmother's voice broke the silence, quavering but full of something Clara couldn't quite place: love, regret, or perhaps both. "What are you doing here?" Clara's mother asked, a tinge of defensiveness evident in her tone. "We came to see you both," her grandfather said, stepping forward as if to bridge the chasm that had formed. "We need to talk." Clara remained rooted to the spot, her emotions swirling. She wanted to rush into their arms and soak in any remnants of family warmth, yet the very air cracked with tension. Memories of laughter shared on holidays felt like distant stars she could no longer reach. "About what?" Clara's mother pressed, crossing her arms tightly. "About Tobias," her grandmother said, her voice softening as she spoke her son's name. Clara noticed a catch in her throat, hinting at the pain buried beneath the surface. "You deserve to know the truth. We have held it close for too long." Clara's heart thudded in her chest. This was at the moment she had wanted, yet simultaneously dreaded. She glanced at her mother, who looked torn, caught between wanting to protect Clara and a deep-seated need for the truth to finally emerge. "Why didn't you tell me?" Clara's mother questioned, lips pressed together in anger and hurt. "We thought we were shielding you," her grandfather replied. "But the past doesn't vanish. It lingers, shaping everything." Clara's mind raced. What could they tell her that could alter the fragments of her life that felt mysteriously whole in their absence? Would they confirm her worst fears or lead her to some unexpected resolution? "Let them in," Clara finally said, breaking through the tension. "If we are going to do this, we might as well face it together." It felt right, as if she had unwrapped a bold decision that could either crumble under its weight or illuminate the path ahead. Her mother sighed but stepped back, allowing her parents to cross the threshold into their home. Clara guided them to the living room, the place where all family histories blurred, collided, and redefined themselves in whispered stories and shared heartaches. "Clara," her mother began, but Clara raised her hand, silencing her momentarily. "Please let them speak," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The room grew still, filled only with the sound of breaths and the weight of anticipation. Her grandmother settled into an armchair, clasping her hands tightly in her lap. "We wanted to protect you, but you have the right to know where you come from, especially if you're going to break the cycle." As Clara sat across from her, she felt a mix of dread and resolve. Everything she'd learned, everything she held close to her heart, was about to be dissected. "Your father, he was entangled in things we couldn't help him with," her grandfather began, his eyes holding a haunted look, as if they had borne witness to things too painful to recount. Each word spilled forth like a reluctant tide, pulling Clara deeper into her family's history. As they unraveled the tangled threads of secrets, Clara felt herself shifting in her seat. Could their stories reshape who she believed she was? Or would they only serve to entrap her in the shadows of her father's past? "I need to know if there's hope," she whispered, the uncertainty stinging her. "More than you think," her grandmother said, a glimmer of strength igniting in her eyes. "But it requires facing the truth, even when it hurts." Clara's stomach twisted. She had sought answers, but now she realized. Answers led to more questions. Was she ready to confront the weight of her bloodline? Her heart raced as each revelation began to take its grip. She was standing on the edge of something monumental, something that would alter the course of her life. Just as her grandmother started to speak again, the phone rang, slicing through the fragile tension in the air. Clara's heart sank. The world outside was intruding again, pulling her back to an uncertain reality. Who could it be? Was it someone from the past, or an unexpected turn waiting to unfold? As her mother's hand reached for the phone, Clara knew that whatever came next would drag them all further into the churning waters of truth. She held her breath, waiting for the storm behind the door to finally break free. Clara watched her mother's expression shift as she looked at the phone, concern filling her eyes. The tiny machine buzzed insistently, almost tauntingly, its sound sharp against the heaviness of the moment. After a brief hesitation, her mother picked it up, raising it to her ear. Clara could feel her heart race, each beat echoed by the tight silence in the room. "Hello?" Her mother's voice was cautious, as if the caller could read the tension that filled the air. Clara exchanged glances with her grandparents, both sets of eyes glued to her mother, waiting for a sign, a thread to pull them out of this emotional storm brewing around them. "Mom." Clara's heart dropped as she recognized her mother's tone give way to alarm. "What do you mean?" There was a pause, one that seemed to stretch like a rubber band ready to snap. Clara could see her mother's face grow pale as another wave of uncertainty washed over her. "Nothing, just please. I need to know more," her mother stammered. The conversation was one-sided, but Clara could feel the weight of those words pressing like a boulder against her chest. What was happening? Who was on the other end of that line? Clara's mind raced through countless possibilities. "Why are you calling now?" Her mother shot back, her voice rising with a mix of desperation and anger. It was clear something unexpected was unfolding, but Clara couldn't make sense of it. "Mom," Clara said softly, hoping to break through the tension surrounding her mother like a thick fog. "What is going on?" "Just a minute, Clara." Her mother snapped, eyes darting around the room, as if she were searching for escape. Clara's stomach twisted. Panic laced with dread clawed at her throat. She cast a worried glance at her grandparents, who exchanged worried looks, confusion flickering behind their eyes. Clara could sense their urgency beneath their composed facades. Finally, her mother hung up the phone with a shaky hand, her expression hauntingly vacant, as if she'd just seen a ghost. "What is it?" Clara pressed, her heart racing, feeling a quickening in the room. Her mother took a deep breath, struggling for composure, before saying, "It was Aunt Grace. She said something happened. Something about Dad." The air thickened again. Clara felt herself shrink at her mother's words, vulnerability wrapping around her like heavy chains. Her grandfather leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Is he all right?" His voice was low and steady, but Clara could hear an underlying current of fear. "She didn't say," her mother whispered, but she sounded scared. "What does that mean?" Clara demanded, the words spilling out before she could restrain them. "Are we going to lose him too?" The silence grew heavy. Clara understood then this was the truth her grandparents were talking about. The secrets, the pain, all connected to a man who was hardly a shadow in her life. Would the unraveling of their mislaid histories lead to a deeper fracture? Or perhaps an unexpected truth about her father that could pull them closer together? "I need to go see her," her mother finally said, determination rising in her eyes, mixed with fear. She turned to Clara, the weight of the moment bearing down on them. "We need to go together." Clara's mind raced. She wanted answers, but was she ready to face the storm that awaited them? Would this journey lead to healing, or would the past ensnare them even further? "We can't leave now," her grandmother interjected, a steely resolve replacing her earlier softness. "Not until we discuss everything. Everything about Tobias and what you might face with him." Clara felt the air catch in her throat. The conversation they'd been about to have, the secrets that woven through their shared stories, were pulling her toward a horizon she both longed for and feared. "Mom, are you sure?" Clara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What if all this brings more pain?" But as Clara's mother nodded, determination dancing in her eyes, Clara felt the fragile tendrils of hope sparking amid the fears. There was something out there, a life-changing truth waiting for them, and she couldn't ignore it. Gripping her mother's hand, Clara took a deep breath. "Then we face it together." In that moment, she knew whatever hovered in their path would demand courage from her. But the haunting question lingered. Would they rise against the ghosts of the past, or be swallowed by them forever? The door to the unknown awaited them, and Clara was ready to step through the threshold, one hesitant foot in front of the other. Would they uncover the redemption they sought, or would the shadows be too entrenched to escape? Clara's heart raced as they gathered their things. The air felt electric with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Her mother's face was set, a blend of fear and determination etched across her features. Clara glanced at her grandparents. Their faces reflected a storm of emotions: concern, pain, and a flicker of hope that had long been tucked away. "I'll drive," Clara's mother announced, her voice firm, as if a decision was already made. They moved toward the door, each step heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. Clara clutched her mother's hand tightly, comfort radiating from the warmth of her grasp. In that moment, she felt that maybe, just maybe, they could face anything together. As they stepped outside, the crisp air bit at her cheeks. Clara inhaled deeply, trying to ground herself in the moment. The drive felt infinite, like time itself had slowed down to stretch the anticipation. Her mother's knuckles whitened as she gripped the steering wheel, eyes focused ahead. Clara stole glances at her mother's profile, searching for some sign of reassurance, but all she saw was a mask of tension, lines etched deep from worry. "Do you think Dad's really all right?" Clara ventured, breaking the silence that hung like a heavy fog in the car. Her mother hesitated, lips pressed into a thin line. "I don't know, honey, but we'll figure it out. We have to face this together." Clara felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. What would they find when they reached Aunt Grace? Would they uncover old wounds, or the healing they desperately sought? The drive continued, each familiar street a reminder of the life they had before all of this. Clara's thoughts raced through memories of laughter and warmth, Christmas mornings flooded with light, evenings spent around the dinner table, the stories her father told that suddenly felt like they belonged to someone else. They finally arrived outside Aunt Grace's house, an unassuming cottage with peeling paint that had seen better days. Clara's breath caught in her throat as the place triggered so much emotion, the laughter, the secrets, the shadows of memories long buried. "I can't do this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her mother looked over, compassion softening her fierce expression. "We can't run from it anymore. We need to know." Clara nodded, though doubts clawed at her resolve. They climbed out of the car, legs shaky as they made their way to the front door. When her mother knocked, the sound echoed like a loud declaration of their arrival. Moments stretched on, each passing second stretching Clara's nerves tighter. Finally, the door creaked open, revealing Aunt Grace, her eyes wide and flitting between surprise and relief. Before anyone could speak, her eyes shifted, drawing to a point behind Clara. "Come inside," she nearly whispered, as if the words were heavy with the weight of what they would reveal. "We need to talk." Clara's heart thudded in her chest as they stepped over the threshold, crossing into a space filled with memories of love intertwined with unspoken grief. The living room was dim, a soft hum of life muted under the surface. Aunt Grace motioned for them to sit. Her gaze drifted to the family portraits lining the walls, each frame a reminder of joy mixed with loss. I have something to tell you," she began, her voice unsteady. Clara could feel the tension rising in the room, wrapping around them like a thick blanket. What was coming? What could possibly weigh so heavily on her aunt that she seemed to carry the burden of the world? "What is it?" Clara pressed, her voice laced with urgency. Aunt Grace hesitated, and Clara braced herself for the tide of truth about to crash over them. The silence deepened, each second ticking away as though the house itself were holding its breath. "Your father, he's not who you think he is," Aunt Grace finally said, the gravity of her words hanging painfully between them. Suddenly, Clara felt the room spin. The storm she had anticipated was here, manifesting as uncertainty and fear, but somehow, it clashed with the hope she had been nurturing. What truth lay hidden beneath the surface? Would this revelation be the key to unlocking the bonds of their past, or a cruel twist that would unravel everything? In that heartbeat of silence, Clara knew their lives would forever shift. What awaited them on the other side of this revelation? Would it lead to healing or deeper fractures? She could hardly breathe as she waited for the answer. Tension hung thick in the air as Clara's heart pounded. She searched Aunt Grace's face, trying to decipher the storm brewing behind her eyes. Each tick of the clock sounded like a countdown to something monumental, something that could shatter the fragile world she clung to. "What do you mean?" Clara finally managed to ask, her voice trembling slightly. The room felt too small, too close. She could see her mother's jaw tighten, a flicker of a fight beneath the surface. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken words and heavy emotions, each second dragging like an eternity. Aunt Grace inhaled deeply, her gaze flickering to the family photos that adorned the walls, ghosts of a happier time reflecting back at them. "Your dad, he's kept secrets," she started, her voice thick with unshed tears. Secrets about who he really is and about our family things he hasn't shared, not even with you or your mother. Clara felt her stomach drop. Was it possible? Her father, the man who told bedtime stories and built the treehouse in the backyard, was hiding parts of himself, parts that could change everything she thought she knew? But why? Shared words squeezed from her tight throat. Why wouldn't he just tell us? Aunt Grace looked at her, eyes shimmering with sorrow. Some things are too painful to speak. Some truths can tear a family apart. He thought he was protecting you. Clara shook her head, trying to process it all. She felt surrounded by shadows of doubt. Without realizing, she leaned forward, desperate for clarity. What kind of secrets? I can't tell you everything, Aunt Grace murmured, anguish lacing her voice. But it has to do with his past before he met your mother. There are pieces that connect back to our family that he never shared. You have to understand that it was a different time, a different life filled with circumstances he believed would hurt you both. Then we need to confront him, Clara exclaimed, adrenaline surging through her. The weight of the unknown was suffocating, but if her father was alive and there was hope if he had a chance to explain? Not yet. Aunt Grace's voice was firm yet gentle. You need to know what you're up against. There's more to this than you realize, and I want you to be ready. Your father is battling his own demons, and he may not be the man you thought he was. Clara's heart sank. What are you saying? Is he in trouble? Aunt Grace paused, searching for the right words. He has made choices he isn't proud of. Choices that could hurt your family and reveal truths you may not want to face. The room fell silent, the weight of uncertainty pressing down heavily. Clara's mind raced. How could a man so full of love also hold a life shaded with hidden scars? The idea of their father unraveling felt like pulling on a thread towards a tapestry she was still trying to understand. Why do we have to know this now? Clara's voice was barely above a whisper, her heart aching at the thought of standing on the edge of a precipice. They had always been a family, a tight-knit unit, bound by love. Why tear those bonds apart now? Because you deserve the truth, Aunt Grace replied, her tone softening. And sometimes the truth is painful, but it's only through facing it head-on that we can reshape our destiny. Clara felt the weight of Aunt Grace's wisdom, but also the sharp pang of fear. Could she really face whatever lay ahead? Would that hope which flickered within her keep burning, or would it extinguish? With a shared glance with her mother, a silent bond of strength and uncertainty enveloped them. A decision loomed closer. What do we do now? Clara finally asked, ready to march into this dark unknown with her family by her side. Aunt Grace straightened in her chair, revealing a glimmer of resolve amid the uncertainty. We prepare for a journey, Clara. A journey not just to find your father, but to rediscover what family truly means. Clara's breath quickened again, a blend of dread and determination swirling within her. What awaited them as they delved deeper into the recesses of their past? Would they find healing or uncover further secrets that could tear them apart? The questions loomed, anticipation bubbling to the surface, and Clara knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. Clara's heart pounded like a drum as she took in Aunt Grace's words. The air felt thick with tension, each person in the room wrestling with the weight of their unvoiced fears and hopes. She shared a glance with her mother, their silent exchange a mixture of determination and uncertainty. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Where do we start? Clara asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions. She needed to tamp down the chaos inside her, needed clarity amidst confusion. Aunt Grace nodded, her expression firm yet soft. The first thing you need to do is find your father. We can't wait any longer. The gravity of her words hung in the air, drawing them all into an unbreakable bond of vulnerability and courage. Okay, Clara agreed, taking a deep breath. But how do we even find him? Aunt Grace glanced toward the window, where the fading light painted the room in hues of gold and charcoal. I have some contacts from the old days. I can help you track him down. Let us do it, Clara replied, hope flickering to life within her. The uncertainty of the future now felt less daunting. The drive to uncover family truths propelled her forward with a newfound strength. With Aunt Grace leading the plan, they gathered around the table, discussing contacts and paths to reach her father. Each shared word was like stitching together a quilt of understanding, bringing their lives closer and closer. Hours passed, but Clara barely noticed. The room vibrated with a tangible sense of purpose, her heart swelling with the realization that they were no longer just treading water, they were diving headfirst into the depths of the unknown. Eventually, Aunt Grace looked up, her eyes sparkling with a resilient resolve. "Are you ready for this, Clara? This could change everything." Clara met her gaze, determination etched into her every feature. "I'm ready. I have to be." As they finalized their plan, Clara pictured her father. The man she remembered, the laughter, the love was buried beneath years of secrets and pain. The thoughts swirled and surged in her mind, a mix of fear of what she might discover and a glimmer of hope that there could still be redemption for their family. The next morning arrived with a crackling promise. Clara stood at the kitchen counter, pouring coffee, but this time, the warm brew was not just a routine, it was a symbol of a new beginning. With determination, they hit the road, Aunt Grace directing them toward familiar haunts from the past. Clara's mother gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white as they drove into the unknown. "Are you going to be okay?" Clara asked, trying to read her mother's expression. "I'll be fine," her mother replied. "We're doing this together. That's what matters." The reassurance was needed, grounding Clara as they ventured deeper into memories, laughter, and regret, but mostly toward new beginnings. When they finally arrived at a rundown address indicated by Aunt Grace, Clara's heart thundered in her chest. She could feel the weight of everything they'd just uncovered, the family history wrapped in layers of longing and hope. As they walked to the door, Clara hesitated for a split second. But Aunt Grace and her mother were there, steady and anchored, reminding her she wasn't alone. She knocked, her heart racing as anticipation twisted her insides. When the door creaked open, Clara's breath hitched. There stood her father, older than she remembered, with the years etched across his face like cracks in porcelain. He looked startled, but also filled with a sense of longing that mirrored Clara's own. "Clara?" he whispered, eyes wide, disbelief mixed with a flicker of hope. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling, "we need to talk." In that moment, all the unsaid words, all the shared moments lost in silence, hung heavily in the air. Clara inhaled deeply, ready to dive into the depths of the truth. With her family by her side, she felt the storm of emotions roar like thunder inside her. But she wasn't afraid anymore. They were here to face it together. As the conversation unfolded, Clara realized they weren't just uncovering secrets buried beneath time. They were piecing together a legacy, one filled with struggles and vulnerabilities, but also endless opportunity for healing and transformation. Each confession led to another, and Clara could feel the chains of the past beginning to break. They were shedding hurt like old skin, breathing in the light of understanding and connection. She felt her father's pain, but also the love he had for her that was woven tight into the fabric of their family. The very connection she thought was lost now sprouted anew, entwined with empathy and support. And as the weight of the truth settled on them, Clara understood her journey was far from over. This was just the beginning. The healing would take time, but together, they would redefine their family narrative. As she looked around at her mother, Aunt Grace, and her father, hope blossomed brightly within her chest. She was ready to step into her ever-unfolding future, committed to forging a path filled with compassion, understanding, and love. The past would always be part of them, but it no longer had to dictate their tomorrows. Clara felt raw and vulnerable, yet profoundly alive in a way she had never experienced. The journey ahead was paved with challenges, but it was also filled with belief in one another, a belief that would guide them through the storms that in that moment. Clara knew her dreams were not just a flicker of light at the end of a tunnel. They were a beacon, and she would chase that light ever forward. Now was the time to create a life defined not by shadows, but by resilience and hope. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Your support makes all the difference.